Ryan, what do we love?
We love ghost stories.
And what do we have?
We have people with ghost stories.
So what are we going to do?
We're going to listen to those ghost stories.
Let's get spooky.
Let's get spooky. Brit,
Yeah.
would you please tell us a ghost story?
All right. So I'm not going to tell you a ghost story. You're going to have to change the name of this. I'm going to tell you a weird story. So here's my weird story. So this is, I used to work at Video Hits 1. And so,
VH1?
yeah. So, and so I was shooting stuff with Johnny Rotten. And so I was in the desert, and we had a couple of tanks, and we had all these soldiers, and it was like, it was in the desert. It was like 115. And so I was shooting this whole war recreation thing, and Johnny Rotten was a huge pain in the ass and quit, and then came back, and believe it or not, he's a little difficult at times.
Yeah, he was exactly how we all imagine Johnny Rotten to be.
Yeah, I'm not sure what from his name would have given it away.
And the lesser popular half of the Sex Pistols.
Yes.
I'm correct there. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
He's not called Johnny Pleasant to work with,
Yeah.
And then went on to lead, was it PIL?
There's some acronym names in there that I should remember, but it's been a while.
I know. PIL. Something public,
something life or
limited.
something. I don't know.
Okay.
I
But
should remember.
anyway.
But so it was like one of my first jobs directing, and so I was I wish I turned off notifications. What a bummer. So
That's Johnny Rotten.
I get a lot of notifications.
He's like, you're talking about me.
So oh fuck, I gotta turn them off.
Oh no, he's on you.
God, anarchy in the UK.
Wait, oh man. Oh, this is the worst part. Okay, we're gonna see what happens. Can you guys hear those beeps?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Welcome.
Yeah, we hear him too.
Oh man. I don't think I can do it. I don't.
Yes, you can.
Fine.
Okay, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
It's just for the door. All right, so it's one of my first jobs directing, and so I have no background in film or cameras at all, and so like came in as a writer, basically directing. So we have like 20 soldiers and tanks, and it's the desert, and it's super hot. And I'm with my friend Patrick Cady and Keener, who are both, at the time they were both DPs, but now they're very established, doing great DPs. But so we had a bunch of cameras, Bolexes and stuff, and I didn't know how to use any of them. And so it's super embarrassing when it's like there's someone like jumping out of a tree and someone hands you a Bolex who is working for you, and you're supposed to be the director, and is like, here, get that, and you just take it, and you're just like, I don't know anything about this. And so,
I know what a Bolex is. Will you explain to Matt what?
Sorry. Yeah, Matt, I know you're not. Brian had mentioned that you're not.
Yeah.
I think the word was.
I know what it is.
Smart, right? Not smart.
Yeah, I was hoping that wouldn't come out. But so a Bolex is a film camera. So there are a bunch of like little like film cameras, like old film cameras, like World War II film cameras and stuff that we had. So I just didn't know how to use any of them, and so it's embarrassing when you're the boss and you get handed something and you don't know how to use it. And so, and a bunch of guys quit, got heat stroke. It was a really hard day. And so at the end of the day, Patrick, Deke, and I are all walking to our cars, like this, the sun sets, we're walking to our cars. And I was so tired. And I said to them, I just had the weirdest premonition that Patrick, one day you and I are going to be shooting Puff Daddy in an apartment in New York, and I'm going to walk through this hallway with a really low ceiling, and I'm going to open a door, and there's going to be a Russian woman sitting there sewing. And so I said it, and it's just the weirdest thing in the world to say, right? Like, it's like, yeah. And so I say it, and they look at me, and they're working for me, and I don't know them that well, and they're like, oh, that's really weird how you can have those things, and you don't know where they come from or why you would think that, and I'm like, yeah. And so they get in their car, and I get in my car. I'm like, why are you so weird? Why? Like, why? Why would you say that? Like why? Is it why? And so I'm like, so tired. And so, I drive back to the whatever. And so it's like 2 years later. And so I'm shooting with Patrick we fly from New York to LA. We shoot with Heather Locklear as we're for the VH1 Fashion Awards. And so she's hosting with Puff Daddy. And so, we fly from New York to LA. We hear that Puff Daddy can shoot the next day in New York. And so also P. Diddy Combs, for anyone who's not old enough to know.
I didn't know who you were talking about.
Sean Combs, another beat. Sean Combs, I'll give you that one clean. Oh, so
Daddy.
And so we're in LA. We shoot with Heather Locklear like all day. We hear, P. Diddy is going to he can shoot tomorrow in New York. They cast someone that day to act with him, and they found a location. And so Patrick and I shoot really late. We get on a red eye, go to New York. We walk into this apartment that we haven't seen. I'm gross. So I walk in and I'm like, I got to take a shower somewhere in here. And there's literally a shower in the middle of the living room. And it's the apartment from the movie Two Guys and One Girl, which was a Robert Downey Jr. movie. So it's like, there's literally a shower in the middle of the apartment. And so I'm like, well, crew's setting up. So I'm like, I'm not going to do that. So I'm like, And so I'm walking around and there's a kitchen. And so I walk in the kitchen and there's like this little like 3/4 door. And so I'm like, I wonder what's in here. And I open up the 3/4 door and I have to sort of hunch over and I walk and they're like doors. There's like a bathroom there and there's just a door at the end. And so I walk to the end, I open up the door and this woman is sitting there in it's just this giant loft and she's sitting there in the sewing machine and she turns and looks at me and it says something in Russian or some language I don't know. And so I just stood there and I was like, holy shit. Like I was just like, holy shit. And so I closed the door. I don't say a word. I close the door and I'm just like, it's not true. It's not true. It's not true. And I walk back and Patrick is like setting stuff up. And I was like, Patrick, do you remember at the end of the Johnny Rotten shoot when we were walking in the parking lot and I said to you that I had a premonition that we were going to be shooting Puff Daddy in an apartment and I was going to walk down this little hallway on the other side of the kitchen and I was going to open up a door and there's going to be a Russian woman sitting there sewing. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, she's back there. And he's like, he held up his arm and his arm was just like, he's just all goosebumps.
Yeah.
And he's just like,
God.
That's the story. I mean, that's impossible.
Yeah.
It's beyond, and it's so specific.
That's so specific.
Like, it's beyond impossible.
Do you think that in your premonition, it was to give you 2 years to learn Russian to get the message from this woman and that you didn't do it? And so she turned and told you something very profound, but you...
Yeah, it was weird because the only word I knew was Zatkinis, which means shut up. And that was the end of governor.
Which works right now.
Yeah.
Did he then go down the hallway to like check too? Like, did we ever, like, it was just, it was
weird. It was weird because it was like, that was enough. It was, I don't know, maybe because he's kind of an all business guy.
Yeah.
Like he was just sort of like, he just held up his arm and he had goosebumps and then it was like,
it's so wild.
Had you remembered when you realized that you were going to shoot this thing with P. Diddy? Did it jog your memory, or was it not until
because it was also everything was so rushed that do you want to know my theory on it?
Yeah, sure,
okay. Definitely.
So this is my theory. My theory is I was exhausted the first day. I was exhausted. I was probably dehydrated. I was so tired that my guard was down, and everything I'd learned in life to like not say things that are weird or there's just a way society works. And I think I was so exhausted, and so there's also like the sincerity and stuff that comes with filming that I think somehow all those guards were down, and I just said something that I normally never would have said. And I think the only way that turns into something that isn't deja vu or whatever else is you have to say it out. You have to say that thing out loud or make it real enough that you remember, you can recognize that you had a premonition about this as opposed to deja vu or whatever. So, and then when I was in New York, I was so tired. I had shot the whole day before, red-eyed, didn't sleep very well. I went right from JFK to the set. Like, so I was totally beat. So I think somehow I was so tired in both places that however the universe works, that connection could just be made between those two worlds of like tired, guard down, sincere, honest, open to whatever is out there. Because there's no logic. It's impossible. It's just impossible.
Yeah.
Now, when was the exact moment where it all kind of rushes in and you go, oh, like, was it when you saw the Russian woman?
When she turned and looked at me, it was like a horror story. Like, in terms of like walking down that hallway, I knew there was something. Like, I just walking down that hallway because it was low, and I was like, this is so weird. And there's like a weird bathroom there, and I was like,
Yeah.
this was all weird. And so, but it literally was like a poltergeist door moment when I opened up that door, because it was just this giant loft.
It feels like a Kubrick film.
Like, yeah, and
where you're just like,
yeah, and it's funny, I didn't say anything or anything. It was just,
Yeah.
she was there. Like,
Yeah.
that's terrifying.
God.
But also, more than terrifying, it just seems like, are you magic?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the takeaway. Like, if you're looking for a takeaway, it would be that I'm magic. Also, watch out. Watch out would be the other thing.
Yeah. She had a premonition that a man was just gonna burst into her sewing room someday.
Yeah.
Not say anything, but just kind of like look in and then slowly close the door.
Guys, that door.
I got a feeling that at some point
that door.
That's so crazy.
That is unbelievable. It like, it's one of those things that's gonna sit with me and bother me because it just like it opens up these questions that you don't normally ask or think of, and like in the dead of night, I'm gonna be like,
oh heck yeah!
But why does he lie so much? Why did Patrick lie? He seemed like a nice guy.
Yeah. No, that's that. And you've never had another like moment like that where you
I've had a lot, actually. I mean, I have a lot, like, in terms of because I do listen, I do pay attention, and that, like, I always paid attention before that. Like, even like there was one time driving home when I lived in Venice, driving back from a party with Jen, and I was like, I don't want to take 4th. I was like, something bad happened on 4th. And she was like, okay. And then we got to my place, and literally there were just like fire trucks and sirens and everything, like, right down the street from how we would have come. So, like, I definitely will pay attention to anything that I just feel like, because I just, in terms of however the universe works, in terms of like that we go around the sun, and that's, a year, and we, rotate, and that's a day. And I've been listening to my son a lot when he talks about science. So, but in terms of like, that's what time is to us. And I just don't, I think that there are just other things there's just other ways the universe works that we just don't understand.
Yeah.
Yes.
But Puff Daddy does.
Puff Daddy. This was all planned by Puff Daddy.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, because he was such a big star at the time, and then he was like, guys, there's a Russian woman back there, and I don't need to record any more music.
By the way, did you ever take a shower that day?
No. No, I didn't need to after that.
Story got a little scarier.
Yeah. I haven't showered since, so I'm so freaked out. That's why my hair looks like this. Okay, so the story of my dad is, my dad, so the story with my dad is, I was a little kid. I was like, I guess I was 8. And so we were in our house. We lived in this really old house. It was built in 27. It was in New York, and it had this really creepy basement that literally had a stream going down it in the middle. And so my dad is one of these guys who, very nice guy, but when things go bad, they go bad. Like, in terms of like, if you're working on a car with him, he's always trying to loosen that bolt, and you're like, please don't try and loosen that bolt that you can't reach. And then it's, he'll be like, this is what he does. He goes, they put the damn bolt where you can't, and you just hear that, and the bloody knuckles come up, and you're just standing there, there's a little kid with a wrench. You're just like, why am I having, this is horrible. We're going to work on the car today. And so I was upstairs, my dad was downstairs, and he was working on the boiler. And this is just not good. So you just heard, he was very unhappy. And so what had happened was he had dropped a wrench on the other side of where he couldn't, the hot water heater, and he couldn't get to it. And so his fingers were just like over the top and down. He couldn't get to it. And he was very mad, and everyone was very aware that he was very mad. And so at the time, what I didn't know that was happening at the time was, as that was happening, then everything just stopped. And so he had just started going to church with us. My sister and my mom all went to church. My dad used to drop us off and then go get breakfast. But he had started going, gotten baptized and started going. And so it was like a shift in our family where like my dad became religious. And so what happened was he dropped the wrench, everything got quiet, and he said he just felt a presence. And so he said out loud, he said, "Is that you, Jesus?" Because he said he just was aware of someone being there. And he said, "No, I know it's not. It's you, Mom." And so he knew, so he was like, he was down there and he realized that his mom was there with him. And so I was upstairs and the phone rang, and it was my uncle asking for my dad. My dad came upstairs, and I didn't know any of this that happened downstairs. But so my uncle said to my dad, my dad answered the phone and he said, "I know," before his brother said anything to my dad. And he said, "I know she was just here."
No.
And so my uncle had called my dad to tell him that his mom had died.
Wow.
Oh.
No way.
Yeah. So,
Holy cow. And you were in the house.
yeah.
Now,
So, yeah.
that's wild. I mean, because that's not something you just, you can't guess at that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there are all sorts of logical reasons for it. I mean, she had been sick. She had been sick. And so,
Okay.
But yeah, it was a very specific moment of him coming and answering the phone and just, saying that before anything else was said.
Did you ever talk to him about that? Like,
yeah, I mean, he has told that story, and yeah, it's just like, he's a more logical person than me. But like I mean, my dad was a fighter pilot, and he's got great stories about, like flying off the coast of Hawaii, and they would do things where they would, this was in the 50s, and they would just, part of what you do is you would sneak up behind someone and try and get tone on them, you try and get lock on them. And so what you would do is you just fly, if you saw one of your buddies flying, you'd be like, here we go. And you try and, you just do a mock dog fight. And so my dad one time was flying, and he had someone come up behind him, and he's like, "Oh crap, I gotta shake this guy." And then he asked the tower who it was, asked who it was, there was nothing back, asked the tower who it was. They said, "There's no one up there with you." And so he asked for permission to go live, which they gave him. And whatever was behind him went in front of him, and he said he got tone on it. And then, so he got a lock on it. And when he did that, he said it went over the horizon. He said, it was like in terms of like as a pilot, you learn how to estimate speed and stuff. And he was like, it was like a Mach 6 and then just a left turn, like a 90-degree turn. And so, my dad has those experiences, and all those, my dad was a pilot for Pan Am and stuff. And so they all have those experiences of like, they all see stuff. And so they all have those stories. So I think in terms of like, I was always raised that it's like, as a kid, I was like, well, there's obviously something else out there. And so it made kind of weird stuff normal.
That's wild. And I guess my question is, when he felt his mother's presence, like working in that room, it wasn't a visual thing. It wasn't a,
no, he said she was just there.
It was just something he felt, a presence.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, what it's like. I mean, even like after like a dog dies, it's like, that's the kind of like, I think that happens the most often where a pet dies and you can just feel that thing not there. Like our dog died a couple months ago, and it's just like, you're like, you can just, it's a weird thing. It's funny, I said to Jen after that, I was like, it's like part of the left side of me isn't here. Like I
Right.
can, that's where she was somehow. Like I'm just aware of her not being in this house.
Yeah. It's like
but-
an emptiness.
Yeah.
There's an emptiness.
So somehow I think there's something there, you know, it's just something like that, you know, I don't know.
That's wild.
Yeah. And I
That's
can't
wild. That's a whole nother can of worms I want to talk to you about. Like, I actually want to get your father to come talk to
Yeah.
us. Would he ever?
Oh, of course.
really.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
That'd be awesome.
By the way, somebody just walked by your window.
Yeah, a figure went by, and I don't. Those stories were terrifying. The only thing that got me, I'm like that. Him flying. Imagine like flying a jet. Like that's complicated enough. Never mind seeing stuff. That's like it's too much at
Oh.
stake.
Yeah.
I can't drive a
Yeah.
Prius without being terrified of like.
It's a negative Ghost Rider. The pattern is full.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where, that's where that quote comes from, Gaul.
Your writing checks your body.
Wait a minute. So do you have one more, Britt?
I have one more that's not as good.
Oh yeah. Good,
That's
we
the
led
only
up-
ghost story, really.
we're leading up to it. Good.
Oh,
Yeah.
There goes another.
Yeah, there goes there goes what, Ryan?
Nothing.
Why she died 40 years ago.
You have permission to go live.
So when we Jen and I were living in the first house where we lived together, and so the people we were renting it from were really nice, and so it was two sisters, and one of them had polio, and so they had grown up in the house basically, and she I really liked her, but I just got the sense that, you know, she was someone that you would watch out for as a father. And so her dad was a sheet metal worker, and a lot of the stuff in the house was like sheet metal-y, like extra knobs and stuff that he'd made. If anything broke, he would make it himself. And so when Jen and I moved in there first, and then Jen and I moved in together. And when Jen moved in, we weren't married. And I got this sense, I was like, I don't think that, I was like, there's a grandfather here. I was like, there's someone here. And I don't think he necessarily likes that she's here and not married. And that also could be because I was raised going to church. But I was like, I just got the sense of that. Like, and so I would like when, and then also that had someone taken the house from the sisters or something like that. Like it just, there was something about it that didn't feel right. And so I would see just down the hallway, like there's a hallway that all the rooms sort of like had different angles to, and I would see him, and not anything, just nothing specific, but just like a thing. And so I was just like, there's a grandfather in this, the grandfather's in this house. And so I didn't say anything to Jen when she moved in. I didn't say anything. And so I didn't want to freak her out or anything. And so she, when she moved in, she was like, I just saw something. One of the first nights there, she's like, I just saw something in the hallway. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, was it like a grandfather? And she's like, yes. Like he's in the hallway. And so, from then on, we would talk to him and say, like, if we were fixing anything, lights would flicker all the time. Like if we were changing anything, lights would flicker. And then we would explain, we'd be like, so everything's okay. We're renting the house from your daughters. We love them and we're not breaking anything. And then we would talk to him, and then stuff would stop flickering or whatever else. And then everything also just stopped when we got married. Like then he just wasn't there.
Wow. He didn't like you living in sin.
I don't think
No.
so.
None of us did.
Yeah.
None of us did.
Yeah.
It was also weird because anytime we were in bed together, he would watch. I thought it was, it's just so weird to see someone. Sometimes he was younger.
He just
always had a video camera, and sometimes he had like there was a boom, like always watching, always. Always getting great coverage.
Screaming about angles.
Yeah, we'd have to redo it.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get that clean.
Oh, impossible.
That's fantastic. Oh, there's a figure again.
Oh, God.
Oh,
I can't believe you thought that was all these stories are terrifying. These are all like great. They're all great. That's whew.
Yeah.
That was I don't know. Oh, let me give that one again. Yeah, I don't know.
We're just gonna string together like 50 of these things in a row.
We walk into this apartment that we haven't seen. I'll give you that clean. We walk into this apartment, and so it was. I'll give you that clean. They all see stuff, and they're all like, "Let me give that again." They all see stuff.
Thank you, Brit. Thanks for coming on and talking to us.
Yeah. Do you guys need any pickups?
We'll call you about ADR and pickups.
Well, thanks for having me. You guys are really great people.
Oh, you're a great person.
You're a great person. What a gent.
10, I don't know, 10 scare bones?
One of my favorites.
9.5?
One of my favorite guys.
That's just the most delightful person I've ever talked to. I love that guy.
He's wonderful. I can't believe
that'd be the best director to have on set ever. I'm like, what a delight.
Yeah, he's wonderful. He's wonderful in a lot of different ways, and he's only a little less wonderful because his wife Jen Smedley is just a tiny bit more wonderful. They're both wonderful.
I like that.
How
many scare bones? So we gotta
I give that nine straight up scare bones.
Straight 9. All right.
I'm giving it a straight 9. I think, gosh, those were all great. Yeah. And I also want to say they were great individually.
Yeah.
Any one of them would have been great.
Yeah. I meant like a 9.9.
How bad do you want to talk to his father?
Oh my God. These guys are flying and they're seeing stuff like that, but they're locking on it and then it's gone.
I mean, it's crazy enough that like he nonchalantly is saying like, yeah, so these guys would like fly out over Hawaii and find their friends and be like sneak up behind them with their lights off.
Yeah. In jets.
In jets. And be like, peekaboo.
They're doing Top Gun stuff. Fucking Mavericks sneaking up behind Iceman.
But to sneak up behind something or to have something sneak up behind you and then, call the tower and be like, I think I see something behind me. And they're like, hey man, there's nothing up there. The only thing I think could possibly be the case there is if it was a stealth plane from another country.
Can you do your tower voice one more time?
Hey guys, we're checking out for U.S. Navy Flight 416. We're not catching anything behind you. We got no bogeys. Let's check back in on the four.
I can't believe you're not cast as this on a regular basis. Because
right?
People just don't know. That's the problem. Sometimes I'm like, how do you not get cast as that? But it's like because no one's calling you in for that because they don't know.
I'm going to take the. I'm going to make a reel out of this, and I mean a REAL.
Felt real to me.
All right.